Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kamanika and I'm an artist. This December here in England, several storms have passed through, twisting and ripping the trees in my village. December for me is a month of reflection, a reflection about the walks I have made throughout the year. Today I'm going to tell you a story, the story about my road trip in Yorkshire last summer, based on this book, All Creatures Great and Small. Without much ado, let's make our visit to Thirsk in Yorkshire Dales. Is it possible to fall in love with a place just by reading about it? Well, I did. That is how I ended up here in the Yorkshire Dales. Through the pages of the book, I walked through these farms. I spoke to the farmers in their Yorkshire accent. I ended up in tricky situations with the animals. Through the pages of his book, I saw these farm animals in the Yorkshire Dales. I examined with the new vet in Thirsk. Just like he did himself, he made me fall in love with the Yorkshire Dales. So today, I'm going to visit his house. I'm going to see James Herriot. Being a vet is a very challenging job, just like human medicine. It involves dealing with lives, and it can be very heavy and very emotional at times too. I guess another obvious challenge on being a vet is that your patients don't talk, so it's very much trying to understand and guess what they're going through. I first read the James Herriot books when I was a child. I didn't really understand the intricate details of animal or human medicine at the time. But his books are so gently written that even a child can understand and enjoy the books very much. He is the reason I wanted to visit Yorkshire Dales in the first place and come here and see it all for myself. Before I visited James Herriot's house, I wanted to be in a farm. I wanted to see the animals for myself, spend some time understanding their nature, their anatomy, their behaviours. Because just before I started this road trip to Yorkshire Dales, I started reading James Herriot's It Shouldn't Happen to a Vet book again. Dr. James Alfred Wright, or better known as James Herriot, was a British veterinary surgeon. He wasn't actually born here in Thirsk, he was from Scotland. After graduating from the Glasgow Veterinary College, he started his first job here in Thirsk as a junior vet. The practice owner here in the Thirsk Veterinary Surgery, Dr. Donald Sinclair, had enlisted for the Royal Air Force during the war times, and he was soon leaving. So James applied for the vacant post and he was accepted. After returning from the RAF, Donald and James became permanent partners in the practice. James fell deeply in love with the Yorkshire Dales and he never went back to Scotland. He settled here, married, and practiced here as a vet for more than 50 years. James Herriot didn't start writing until quite late in his life. He started writing, I think, when he was about 50 years of age. I remember him telling in an interview that his wife actually challenged him. He had kept all these diaries full of stories from his practice days, and he never did anything with them. One day he was just talking to his wife and he mentioned that he wanted to write, and she just challenged him, saying that you're too old and you're not going to actually write anything, are you? Which he took as a positive challenge and created all these beautiful stories that we all love. So he didn't want to use his own name because at the time, according to the code of conduct in the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons, it was seen as a self-promotion. So he wasn't really allowed to use his own name, which is why he created the pseudonym James Herriot. What I really love about James Herriot books is that the characters have so much heart and soul in them. The stories are very ordinary about everyday farm life and how he ends up entangled in different stories as a vet. But each story has so much compassion. There is so much warmth, wisdom, and as well as wit in his stories. So even late Queen Elizabeth said that the books made her laugh out aloud. During my training as a junior doctor in rural Wales, I remember a consultant saying to me, a farmer never comes to hospital unless a limb is hanging off. So look very carefully. What he actually meant by that was that farmers in general have a very high tolerance and determination, that they don't seek medical help unless they feel something was terribly wrong with them. It may not be obvious at the first look. That story came to mind while I was reading It Shouldn't Happen to a Vet because of the story of Terry Watson. In James Herriot's book It Shouldn't Happen to a Vet, there's a character called Terry Watson who's a farmer and his cow has mastitis. As a treatment, James prescribes rubbing and stripping. It means rubbing the end of the teat with a medicated swab and then testing the first 3 to 5 streams of milk with a hand strip for clots and infection. And when James comes to visit the patient in the morning, he learns that Terry stays up all night following his treatment advice. James advises him to rest, but Terry goes on to do his full day's work. Through his books, James Herriot also discusses a lot of important human health issues as well. For example, about mental health, both in animals as well as humans. In one chapter, he talks about Paul Cottrell's dog Theo, who had to be put down due to illness. Paul is very calm and collected about it. James actually admires this calm demeanour, but only to realize later that Paul had committed suicide from his depression. Depression has no face. People are not what they seem outside. Even Dr. James Alfred Wright himself suffered from episodes of severe depression, and with the appropriate help, he recovered. Also, in chapter 30 of It Shouldn't Happen to a Vet, James talks about another very human topic, wealth and happiness. In this story, there are 2 families, the Taverns and the Rudds. The Taverns are very wealthy, but the father is betrayed by his daughter and the disrespectful wife. In the next visit, James meets the Rudds, who are very poor but a happy, loving family. Rudd's daughter rides her cycle to the village to buy her father a Guinness. James ponders at the families, and given the choice, he decides that he prefers the Guinness. I found this story very touching because James is right. Wealth doesn't always bring happiness. James Herriot's stories are beautiful. They have been constant companion from my childhood into adulthood. Each time I read them, they fill my heart with laughter, joy and peace. And now I'm in the Yorkshire Dales, where he actually lived and worked. Being among these mountains where my literary hero walked and worked adds so much depth and understanding and meaning to my road trip. So I'm going to spend the rest of the day here in Thirsk reading my book It Shouldn't Happen to a Vet. When I returned home from this road trip, I decided to create an artwork inspired by this, and you can see the full video of this in my next video. So the artwork was a reproduction of William Adolph Bouguereau's The Newborn Lamb. William Adolph Bouguereau is one of my favourite artists, portrait artists, and he created a lot of artwork about farmers and their farm life. I will see you in the next video where I share my work on this portrait study. Till we meet again, I hope you will have a peaceful, creative weekend wherever you are in the world. Take care, everyone.